To see the fully uncut version of this video, head over to patreon.com/Jonjo Lyons.
Wouldst thou like to live deliciously? Chaos reigns.
Please don't scream.
Now, Sid, don't you blame the movies. Movies don't create psychos. Movies make psychos more creative.
What's happening? My name is Jonjo Lyons, and today I'm here to present to you my review for Petite Mort. Written and directed by Martin Henschel and Marcel Walls, and directed by Walls, Petite Mort stars... What are these? Three friends, Simon, Nina and Dodo, travel to Mallorca, but their flight is delayed in Frankfurt. Accidentally, they get mugged and wind up at a restaurant called Maison de la Petite Mort, a notorious venue where members of the elite class secretly meet in the basement for bloody games of perversion. Hello, my beautiful people, and welcome to a brand new episode of the show that's slowly turning my brain into a puddle of blood and This week, we'll be taking a look at what promises to be another heavy hitter from my new source for extreme horror, the Unearthed Films Vimeo page. The best way to describe Petite Mort, it's basically low-budget hostel, and that's pretty much it. But before we get into all of that, I just want to remind you, you can see this video completely uncut and early at patreon.com/Jonjo Lyons for as little as $2 a month. With YouTube being the way that it is, the Patreon is the only way I'm able to continue to make this content, so if you like the videos and want to see more, please consider going over there and subscribing for the price of a small cake. Not even a big cake. A big cake would cost way more, like multiple months of the Patreon or multiple small cakes. Do you like cake or not? Then please subscribe to the Patreon! There's also the GoFundMe, which you can find the link for in the description and the pinned comment. And if you're not interested in any of that but still like the content, please like the video, ring the bell, because YouTube doesn't tell my subscribers when I upload new videos, even though I thought that's the whole point of being a subscriber! And leave a comment telling me everything's gonna be okay. But anyway, I'm in the mood to watch a man have his forcibly removed from his body, so let's not waste any more time. Get ready to go to the worst bar in Frankfurt! This is Petite Mort. The movie begins with a voiceover explaining that the following story is based on true events. In August 1996, headlines about the atrocities close to the German border shocked the public. Two backpackers on a trip to Italy were brutally killed and found mutilated beyond recognition. The crime scene was an abandoned cuddles club previously unknown to authorities. The owners of the club literally ran murder machinery, whatever that is, and have never been caught for this minor transgression. The voiceover then tells us this movie is a recreation of what happened according to the police files, with the names changed out of respect for the victims and their families. Now, listen, can I call you? Come here. Listen, I don't believe you, but let's have fun with it anyway. Yeah? Okay. Cut to this woman having a little dance and then the title card. As the woman dances, we see various pictures of tools and Cuddle Club promotional material before cutting to the city and our lambs to the slaughter. Simon, Nina and Dodo as they arrive at a train station. Here we see Simon lead Nina down the stairs slowly as it becomes apparent that the woman is blind. Which, given what's about to happen, is probably for the best. They bang their cases in some lockers, then head to the surface as Simon complains, telling Dodo to turn her camera off. They work out when they need to go back to the airport, then head off to have some fun in town. Cut to a montage of the group about and then to Dodo and Simon alone. Where's Nina? You've not let her just wander off, have you? That doesn't seem very safe. Simon looks sad and Dodo says that Nina didn't go blind yesterday. Simon knows this but says he worries about her, with Dodo replying he doesn't need to. She's known her for years and she deals with it. Simon then says she can't enjoy the trip because she can't see anything. I was gonna say something about that. It's literally called sightseeing. You wouldn't take a guy with no legs walk running, would you? Dodo tries to reassure him, saying it might be a whole new way to experience it, then asks why he gave her the trip as a gift if he's so worried. That's when Simon produces an engagement ring. He says he loves her with all his heart, even though she won't ever be able to look him in the eye. That's when Nina somehow finds them again after having a cheeky walk, and the couple kiss as Dodo asks what they're gonna do next. Nina thinks the dome and Dodo instead wants to go shopping. She then pulls out a travel guide and we cut to the group arriving at this place, a museum for the blind.
Ah! Was war das?
Eine Gabel?
Boah, Leute, das geht echt gar nicht hier.
So that was comedy, right? How long until the torture? Or is this the torture? Quite the immersive cinematic experience so far. They leave and Nina gets a call from her mum. Dodo teases Simon for getting sick in the museum, I think, then they head off. Cut to our heroes bumping into this who asks Simon to lend him the girls for an hour. Simon gets in his face and the man puts his hand in his pocket asking instead for a donation. Dodo gives him some money and the man pulls out gun before running off. Simon digs Dodo out for giving the guy 20 euros and she asks if she should have waited for him to shoot them instead. They continue to argue and Nina tells them to calm down. Dodo drags Nina away and tells Simon to go himself when we cut to them by a bar. Simon goes to walk in and Dodo protests, but Nina agrees and they head inside. Nice! As they enter, the patrons all stop and stare American Werewolf and London style, then they take their seats. Simon panics that they might be in a cuddle club and tells the girls to order their drinks and act like everything is fine. Dodo says they should leave when they're approached by this waitress. Simon orders a Coke when the blonde dancer, Angelique, asks if he's in the mood for a little fun tonight.
Nö, ist doch noch früh, oder?
Der Abend ist ja noch jung.
The answer to that's yes, Simon. Nina's blind, remember? Just stick her face in it and tell her it's banoffee pie. She ain't gonna know the difference. Dodo also orders a Coke and the waitress walks off without even bothering to ask Nina. Dodo teases Simon about his new fan and he tells her to shut the f up. Another girl, Dominique, comes over and sits on Simon's lap saying she's never seen him there before. Simon says they're not from here and Dominique says they look like an adventurous trio. She starts touching up Simon and Dodo yells at her saying she's making Simon uncomfortable. Nina asks what she's doing and Dominique tells her to open her eyes with Dodo saying she's blind.
So muss man die Ekelschwänze nicht sehen, sondern nur schmecken. Oder hast du den Sinn auch verloren, Kleines?
I like Dominique, always looking at the positive, the silver lining around the old man's unwashed penis. Nina calls Dominique a mother and when it looks like it's about to kick off, Simon makes excuses for her. Nina reiterates her point with the other patrons noticing and Dominique says she shouldn't talk to people like that if she can't see them. Dodo replies that her sense of smell works perfectly, which is a pretty sick burn if you ask me, you stinky semen demon. And the pair continue to cuss each other out. Dominique signals to Angelique to make the call when she picks up the phone asking for more. Things start to get especially heated as the men at the bar get up and Simon tries to get between the girls. Simon drops 10 euros saying that'll be enough, but Dominique says a lesson is far more, but for Dodo it's free. They then go to leave when Dominique grabs Dodo and tells her the teacher is on her way. Cut to outside the bar, which does make you think, what the f made Simon decide to go in there? Everything that happens from this point on is Simon's fault. And then inside where we see more of the basement. I really hope that's not supposed to be a real skeleton. We haven't seen any gore yet, so we can't really judge, but please, Christ, tell me that's supposed to be a fake skeleton. Cut to this woman, Mamor, chilling on the laptop when Dominique walks in and tells her everything has been prepared. She asks her if she has everything and Dominique drops down the victims' phones. Mamor isn't impressed and Dominique tells her their bags are still downstairs. She then gives Mamor the group's plane ticket and she wonders if they can get them reimbursed. Mamor dismisses her, then calls her back saying they don't have these three guys here just for fun. In times like these, they need to look for every penny. Cost of living crisis, innit? She then tells Dominique where to put their guests.
Gut, dann steckt die blinde Kuh in den Chatraum, den Typen in den Schlachthof und die ganze, die so angeflammt hat, in den OP.
Wird erledigt, Mama.
She finally says to tell Angelique they'll be live streaming at 1 and Dominique leaves. Cut to Nina in the stocks being filmed. Dominique and Angelique both join her in front of the camera and toy with her as the helpless woman screams. Angelique then opens a box and shakes it before pulling out a mousetrap and snapping it onto Nina's tongue. Now she's blind and can't speak. All you need for her is to go deaf and she'll be a regular Helen Keller. Which reminds me of a joke. What did the deaf, dumb and blind kid get for Christmas? Cancer! The women then kiss. Yes, please, more of that, thank you. And the camera fades to black. Lesbian? More like, let's be in a better movie. Cut to Dodo waking up in the surgery room. Mamor enters and confirms that Dodo was the one who called Dominique a deranged freak, which isn't quite right, but I'll allow it. She asks how Dodo can judge people for their preferences, their desires, and their excitation during the battle. She says they don't judge them for their little sexual preferences. She then talks about how long her people have had to suffer mockery from others like Dodo because she openly enjoys her sexuality. She says now these people are beginning to accept their sexuality, but only behind closed doors, vanished and hidden behind a mask of lies. Finally, Mamor gives Dodo a tap on the tum-tum, picks up a needle and tells her victim not to be afraid. She is to take her into a world of her own. She then stabs her.
Du glaubst gar nicht, was ich in meinem Haus schon alles erlebt habe.
Da ist selbst mir die Schaukel weggeblieben.
She continues to talk about how accepting she is of others while jamming needles into Dodo's skin. She then tells her if she doesn't shut her mouth, the next one's going in her eye. Cut to more shots of the venue/dungeon and then back to Mort as she tells Dodo to enjoy her stay. As she steps back, we see Dodo's arm is now full of needles, looking like some sort of sexy porcupine. Cut to more dungeon and then to Simon in the slaughterhouse calling out for his friends. He's joined by Mort and her daughters who kneel as she enters the cage to feel up Simon. He asks what they want from him and how the woman knows his name, and she says he was betrayed by a little card made of plastic, his ID. She then asks what such a thing is good for.
Das ist nicht jetzt zu Ende reden, oder soll ich dir einfach so in die Eier treten, was wieder unmöglich?
Can we have both? Spit in my face and call me a as you do it, please. She then gives him the bad news. He is in their house, the Maison de la Petite Mort, and they unfortunately don't have any use for well, she says they prefer female flesh, and Simon says he hasn't done anything to deserve this. Mort agrees, but says she's gonna do something to him anyway. The girls start laughing, and Simon calls them when Mort tells him she's gonna surprise their viewers with the most realistic dildo in the world. A bit small? You're about to cut it off? It's probably trying to hide from you, you melty-faced. She says he doesn't have to watch, and Dominique hands Mort a knife. Mort then tells him to look at her and stop crying before shoving the blade into his eye. Then she digs his eyeball out and slowly cuts it off. And finally she pulls his balls out and cuts them to pieces too. I'd just like to remind you, Simon, sweetheart, coming in this place was your idea. Angelique calls out to Mort and she tells her daughter she knows exactly what she wants and she's finally going to be able to give it to her, although she doesn't approve. She then steps into the cage, puts on a shower cap and leans back as Mort disembowels Simon and the guts fall all over Angelique. Fully bricked up. This is a serious issue. I'm genuinely worried about my mental health. Have you ever seen a cry for help before? Because you're looking at one! Cut to Mort chilling at the bar when Dominique says Mr. Von Britannu is on the phone. She takes it and strikes a deal for Nina and Dodo, adding they'll prepare his room immediately. She hangs up and tells Dominique to get the girls bathed and prepared for the slaughterhouse. Cut to Angelique trying to feed Dodo, who's being her usual difficult self. Angelique says Mama wants to feed her and Dodo says she'll have to come and do it herself. Angelique says Mama doesn't have to do anything as she's the lady of the house and has her servants. Dodo in response calls them freaks, saying they have to endure all of this just to get them horny, and Angelique has a bit of a wobbler.
Mama hat gesagt, du sollst das fressen! Mama hat gesagt, du sollst das fressen! Mama hat gesagt, du sollst das fressen! Mama hat gesagt, du sollst das fressen!
Angelique force feeds Dodo the soup and goes to walk away when Dodo, unable to learn from her mistakes, pipes up again saying she's gonna kill her and her cunt mother. This makes Angelique come back and mock the girl before telling her that was her death sentence. Learn from your mistakes, you absolute head. Cut to Dominique bathing Nina. She asks Nina what it's like to be blind, but the girl just asks for help. Dominique says that isn't up to her, that her decisions were taken away from her years ago. Nina says she's never done anything wrong to anyone, but Dominique says it is what it is. Nina then asks why them.
Wart ihr zur falschen Zeit am falschen Ort? An einem völlig falschen Ort.
Nina says she wants to go home to her mother and begs Dominique not to let them kill her, but her captor tells her not to be afraid. They just want to satisfy their desires. Cut to this up looking warehouse as the sisters go for a walk. They stop and open a bag with our heroes' things in it as Dominique wonders how their parents will feel. Angelique tells her they've started this and they'll finish it, and then they bury the belongings in like an inch of dirt. They leave and we cut to the sun setting and then to this car pulling up to the building. Mama shouts at this guy for being late, then greets Mr. Von Bretanu and they head inside. Cut to the title card, the dish of the day, and then to Dodo and Nina in rather fetching hats. We see Mr. Von Bretanu properly for the first time and it looks like he fell asleep in a bowl of mac and cheese. He's now calling himself Klaus the Kobold, or always was? I don't know. And honestly, I don't care enough to find out. Mama asks if the camera is running and the cameraman says it is. She says let's begin the show and Klaus hands her a card with his wishes on it.
Der Master Klaus der Kobold hat eine Vision. Die von einer blonden Darstellerin.
Dominique then draws for the straight razor and starts cutting deep into Nina's forehead. Before ripping her scalp off to reveal her brain. And if you're wondering where Nina's skull is, so am I! It's not just scalp and then brain movie. And don't try to tell me she cut through the skull with a straight razor. Maybe that's part of her whole thing. She's blind and doesn't have a skull. Klaus then says he wants Dodo to taste herself. Just put your own vagina joke in here. Angelique pops down a meat grinder and shoves Dodo's hand into it as the poor woman screams bloody murder. She's then forced to drink her own hand juice. Mama tells everyone to stop, then gives Klaus the choice and he points to Dodo. The man leaves and Mama lets out a sigh of relief as her minions start the post-performance cleanup. Dominique takes Dodo away as Angelique asks what they're to do with Nina. Mama instructs them to kill her, so the cameraman gets in place. Angelique pulls on her gloves, grabs the straight razor and ends Nina's life. Cut to the title card, the hors d'oeuvre, and then to Dodo in a bikini and Klaus in a Santa Claus costume. I think I've seen this adult film before. He taunts her about the life she would have dreamed of, one with no worries, like a pop star or a model. Unfortunately, her reality is much different from that dream which Klaus relishes in reminding her of. He tells her her time is running out and what a waste of young talent she is before pulling out a hammer and going to town. Jesus Christ, man, stop hitting her. She's already dead. There's bits falling out of her head. You can have sex with her or not. Grab her cock! Cut to the title card, the dessert, as we find Klaus in bed with Dodo. Pardon me, her brain fell out, and if she is still alive, I'm pretty sure she can smell colours now from what you did to her. He's being sweet with her in his own awful way, which Dodo goes along with. He says he always envied the guy who got whatever girl he wanted. Dodo asks if he wants a girl too, and Klaus says yes. She asks which girl, and he says she's not a girl anymore. She's a woman and his eldest son's wife. Dodo then offers herself up to Macaroni Man, but he says no.
Warum denn nicht?
Ich bin doch nicht nekrophil.
Upon hearing this, Dodo jumps up, finds a gun super quick that was never established, pops Klaus and gets the f*** out of there. Cut to Dominique giving Mama the bad news, which she doesn't take well. She tells her to get Angelique and bring Dodo back, and if they fail, their asses are next.
Okay?
Ja, Mama.
Raus!
Ja.
Raus! Das darf doch nicht wahr sein.
Cut to Dodo running through the warehouse and the sisters in hot pursuit. Dodo finds herself at a dead end when Angelique catches up with her and the women have a standoff. Dodo takes off again when Dominique finds her sister and continues the chase. Dodo makes it outside and keeps running before stupidly turning to go back inside.
Ich dachte, schien schlauer.
Why were you gonna go back inside, Dodo? Run away! Away! I guess we can blame the massive head injury for that lapse in judgment. Dominique disappears back inside as we're told 2 years after these horrifying events, the couple's decomposed bodies were found in a forest near the city of Vegar in the Czech Republic. Possible traces led to a fetish club far from the bodies. Cut to the limo pulling up and Mama getting inside as we're told the police raided the club but couldn't find any evidence that led to those responsible for the crimes. Since then, no arrests have been made and it's assumed the perpetrators went abroad. Cut to Dominique getting on a plane and giving us a wink. The plane then takes off and the film finally cuts to black. The end. Well, that wasn't very good, was it, folks? Not good enough to love, not enough to hate, which I don't mind telling you, really pisses me off. Petite Mort is a movie I had high expectations of going in due to the trailer and positive word of mouth, but unfortunately that would be something that worked against it for me. I came away from this movie with an extreme negative feeling, not because it was terrible, but because it was aggressively mediocre. The story is as simple as it gets, with a group of backpackers going to the wrong bar, pissing off the wrong person and ended up some psychopath's plaything. A tale as old as time. There's mention of streaming the events as online snuff movies, and we also get a paying customer where usually in movies of this nature you get one or the other. Petite Mort decides to use both but fleshes out neither, giving the impression that the writer had seen a bunch of torture movies and was just throwing stuff at the wall. The characters are the same as they all have surface level traits that are never explored. Mamour is the matriarch and manager but no further details are given. The sisters are hinted at as being victims themselves but are also confusing in their own right. 1 minute Dominique is the one leading the torture, then she's thinking about the victim's parents with Angelique being the strong one. An interesting wrinkle which is dropped as quickly as it's brought up. The cameraman is just a dude in a gimp mask and Klaus is the rich client. Yeah, he wants to f his son's wife, but what about his face? Was the mac and cheese mush even in the script or something they just decided to do on the day? I want to know more. Finally, we have our victims with Simon being the man, Dodo being a loudmouth final girl and Nina being blind. Why did they even bother making her blind? It doesn't apply to the story or affect any meaningful interaction with the antagonists at all. She could have had an escape attempt in pitch black darkness where she thrived and the killers struggled, or tried to escape in plain view with the killers toying with her and making noises, pushing her fear to unimaginable levels, but instead she just gets her brain exposed. Speaking of brains, the gore does have its moments. We get the destroyed penis, exposed brain, minced hand, and savage throat slitting among other tasty treats. It's not the most elaborate stuff, which is surprising seeing as the effects were done by Olaf Ittenbach and it takes way too long to get there, but yeah, it's fine for what it was. Another just fine aspect is the presentation. There's nothing special I can pick out with the exception of slightly interesting editing choices when things got especially bloody. There's also the random menu title cards that showed up in the final third. Very whatever. In the end, Petite Mort suffers from the fact that it's nothing special in a sea of similar titles that go much further. The story and action scenes are structured poorly, leaving it nearly 40 minutes before anything interesting happens. We find out almost nothing about any of the characters, with most of the payoffs ending up underwhelming. I'm sure if I'd been in more of a forgiving mood, I may have cut it some slack, but in the end, Petite Mort is a film I've seen done before way better. So that was my review for Petite Mort. What do you lot think? I guess after weeks of so many entertaining movies, we were bound to stumble across something as average as this one. That being said, Dodo's hand getting mincemeated was savage as f. Speaking of which, if you want to see Angelique cream herself as Simon's guts rain down on her completely uncut and early, head over to patreon.com/Jonjo Lyons. There you can find the uncut version of this review, plus others with more stuff being added all the time. We got the uncut reviews, Patreon exclusive reviews, /the comic breakdowns, commentaries coming soon, and the Discord. And all that can be yours for as little as $2 a month. You can pledge more, I really appreciate it, and do, please for the love of Christ do. This job is killing me. So that's it for another week. Like the video, leave a comment and click subscribe if you haven't already. My name's Jonjo Lyons and I hate how numb I feel right now. I'm gonna stick on Angels, Men and Collier and have a Cheers.